Sadie Whitfield's hands were still covered in grave dirt when the stranger rode up and offered to buy her as a wife. $400. That's what he said she was worth. Enough to bury her father proper and keep Cornelius Driscoll from dragging her to the altar by force. The whole town would call her a fool. They'd whisper she'd sold herself to a mountain man with nothing but worn boots and 7 motherless children waiting in some hidden valley. 7 children. She didn't know that part yet. This is her story. Stay until the end. Hit that subscribe button and comment what city you're watching from. I want to see how far this tale travels. The shovel hit rock, and Sadie's arms screamed. She'd been digging since dawn. 4 hours now, maybe 5. The summer sun blazed overhead, turning the Kansas prairie into a furnace. But she couldn't stop. Wouldn't stop. Not until her father had a proper grave. Need some help there, Miss Whitfield. Sadie didn't look up. She knew that voice. Knew it the way a rabbit knows the sound of a rattlesnake. I'm fine, Mr. Driscoll. Cornelius Driscoll dismounted his black mare expensive boots, crunching on dry grass. Now that ain't no job for a lady. Let me send some of my boys over to... I said I'm fine. She drove the shovel down again. Hit rock again. Her palms were blistered raw, bleeding through the cloth she'd wrapped around them, but she kept digging. Driscoll moved closer. She could smell his cologne, something sharp and foreign that cost more than her family earned in a month. Your daddy passed last night, he said. Word travels fast in a small town. Word travels fast when you pay for it. Now, Sadie. His voice dropped, turned oily. Is that any way to speak to a man who's trying to help? She finally looked up. Cornelius Driscoll was 45 years old, widowed twice, and richer than God. He owned the bank, the general store, half the ranches in the county. His first wife had died of fever. His second had walked into the river one winter night and never walked out. Folks said it was an accident. Sadie knew better. What do you want, Mr. Driscoll? Same thing I've wanted for 6 months. He smiled, showing teeth too white, too perfect. You, as my wife. And my answer's the same as it's been for 6 months. No. Your daddy owed me money, Sadie. $300 and change. That debt passes to you now. I know. You got 30 days to pay it. Otherwise... He gestured at the small cabin behind her, the fence posts she'd counted through every window her whole life. All this becomes mine, including you if I want. Sadie's grip tightened on the shovel. You don't own me. Not yet. Driscoll stepped closer, close enough that she could see the broken blood vessels in his nose, the yellow at the edges of his eyes. But I will. One way or another, I will. He mounted his horse and looked down at her, still smiling that terrible smile. 30 days, Miss Whitfield. Think about my offer. It's the only one you're going to get. He rode away. Sadie watched until he disappeared into the heat shimmer on the horizon. Then she turned back to the grave and kept digging. Mrs. Harmon came by that afternoon with a covered dish and a face full of pity. I'm so sorry for your loss, dear. Your father was a good man. Thank you, ma'am. If there's anything I can do, there isn't. Mrs. Harmon hesitated in the doorway, clutching her empty dish. I heard Mr. Driscoll came by this morning. Word travels fast. He's been persistent about courting you. Sadie didn't answer. Some folks think you should say yes. Mrs. Harmon's voice dropped. He's wealthy, respected. He could take care of you. His second wife walked into the river, Mrs. Harmon. That was an accident, I know. That's what everyone says. Sadie met the older woman's eyes. But I've seen the way he looks at me, like I'm something to be owned, something to be broken. Mrs. Harmon looked away. Good day, ma'am. Thank you for the food. After she left, Sadie sat alone in the cabin that suddenly felt too big, too empty. Her father's chair still sat by the fireplace, the indent of his body still visible in the worn cushion. His pipe still lay on the table, cold now, never to be lit again. 24 years old. No money, no family, no prospects. And a man like Cornelius Driscoll, circling like a vulture waiting for her to weaken. She didn't cry. There'd be time for crying later. Right now, she needed to think. The stranger rode in 3 days later. Sadie was splitting wood when she heard the hoofbeats slow and steady coming up the dirt road. She straightened axe still in hand, watching the rider materialize out of the summer haze. Tall. That was the first thing she noticed. Tall and broad-shouldered, sitting his horse like he'd been born there. His clothes were worn canvas coat patched at the elbows, trousers gone thin at the knees. His hat was pulled low against the sun, shadowing his face. He stopped at the edge of her property. Didn't push closer. "Miss Sadie Whitfield." She didn't answer. "Out here you didn't confirm nothing to strangers." The man nodded like he understood. "Fair enough. Name's Elijah Blackwood. Eli, if you prefer. I rode down from Wyoming territory looking for you specifically." "Why?" "Because I got a proposition. One that might solve problems for both of us." "I ain't interested in propositions from strangers. Didn't say you had to be interested. Just said I had one." He paused. "May I get down from this horse? Been riding 3 days. My legs ain't what they used to be." Sadie considered. He'd kept his distance, asked permission. That was something. "Fine, but this axe stays where it is." "Wouldn't expect nothing less, ma'am." He dismounted and removed his hat. His hair was dark, shot through with gray at the temples, more gray than a man his age should have. His eyes were the color of storm clouds, and when they met hers, they didn't waver. "I'll speak plain," he said. "I know your situation. Know about the debts your father's passing Driscoll's proposal. I know you're running out of time. You've been watching me. I've been asking around. There's a difference. Don't feel like one from where I'm standing." Eli's jaw tightened. "I also know you turned Driscoll down 3 times when saying yes would have solved your problems. That tells me something about your character." "What do you want, Mr. Blackwood?" He took a breath. Something shifted in his face, the mask of composure slipping just enough to show the exhaustion underneath. "I got a ranch up in Wyoming territory. Cattle operation. Hidden valley in the mountains, cut off from the world 6 months out of the year." He reached into his coat and pulled out a folded paper. "I also got 7 children, ages 3 to 14, 7 daughters." Sadie's stomach dropped. 7. Not 3, like she'd heard whispered about some widower up north. 7. Their mother died 2 years ago. Eli continued, his voice going rough. "Birthing the youngest. I ain't done right by them since. They need someone. Someone strong. Someone patient. Someone who don't scare easy. You're offering me a job. I'm offering you marriage." The word landed between them like a thrown stone. "You want to marry me?" Sadie heard her own voice from somewhere far away. "We've never met." "I know enough." He held out the paper. "Bank draft. $400. Enough to clear your debts and leave some for traveling money. Marry me. Come to the ranch. Help me raise my girls. The money's yours either way, whether this works or not." Sadie's mind raced, trying to find the trick, the trap. Why marriage? You could hire a governess, a housekeeper. Had 3 governesses. They all quit. Had 2 housekeepers. They left too. His jaw tightened. "My daughters have lost enough people. They need someone who can't just walk away when things get hard." "So you want to trap me?" "I want to offer you a contract, a fair one." He stepped closer, not threatening, just earnest, desperate in his own way. "You'll have your own room, your own space. I ain't looking for that kind of marriage, not unless we both want it someday. I'm looking for a partner." "Why me?" Sadie demanded. "Why specifically me?" "Because I watched you tell Cornelius Driscoll you'd rather starve than marry him. Because you're still standing in front of your father's grave with an axe in your hand instead of running." He stopped, swallowed. "Because my girls need someone who won't break. And you don't look like you break easy, Miss Whitfield." Sadie stared at him, at the worn clothes and tired eyes, at the set of his jaw that said he'd carry this weight whether she helped or not. "Your wife," she said slowly. How did she really die? Pain crossed his face, raw and immediate. Like I said, childbirth. The doctor was 2 days' ride. I went for him myself, rode through the night. His voice cracked. By the time we got back, my youngest was alive. My wife wasn't. You blame yourself. Every damn day. He didn't look away. I couldn't save her. Can't give my girls their mama back, but I can give them someone who might help them remember how to be a family. Sadie thought about Driscoll's smile, about the debt collectors coming in 27 days, about the fence posts she'd counted through every window, each one marking the edge of a world that kept shrinking. I need to think, she said. I'll wait. Got a room at the boarding house in town. You got until tomorrow morning. Eli put his hat back on. One more thing, Miss Whitfield. What? The oldest, Margaret. She's 14, lost her mama, lost her childhood, been trying to hold that family together ever since. His voice went quiet. She'll hate you. She's already decided to hate whoever I bring home. Just wanted you to know what you're walking into. He mounted his horse and rode away. Sadie stood there for a long time, watching him disappear, the bank draft still in her hand. That night, she sat in her father's chair and talked to the empty room. What do I do, Papa? What would you tell me? The silence answered. She thought about her mother dead when Sadie was 8. About learning to cook, to clean, to run a household before she was tall enough to reach the stove. About the cowboy she'd loved at 19, trampled in a stampede before they could marry. About all the ways life had already tried to break her, and she hadn't broken yet. 7 children, she said aloud. 7 little girls without a mama. One of them already decided to hate me. She looked at the bank draft. $400. More money than she'd ever seen in one place. Freedom from Driscoll. Freedom from debt. Freedom from this shrinking world. But at what cost? I'd be trading one trap for another, she whispered. Wouldn't I, Papa? The wind stirred outside, rattling the windows. She'd counted fence posts through her whole life, and suddenly she knew. Staying here was death. Slow death, maybe, but death all the same. Driscoll would wear her down eventually. Take everything. Take her. But Wyoming territory. A hidden valley. 7 motherless girls. That was life. Hard life. Uncertain life. But life. She'd promised her father something the night before he died. Had held his hand and sworn she'd survive. Whatever it took. This was whatever it took. She found Eli at the boarding house at dawn. I got conditions, she said. He set down his coffee cup. Name them. My father gets a proper headstone, the best the money can buy. Done. I write letters whenever I want. You don't read them. Agreed. And this marriage. Sadie stepped closer, close enough to see the flecks of darker gray in his storm cloud eyes. It's a partnership, not ownership. You don't control me. Don't make choices for me. Don't treat me like property. Something shifted in Eli's face. I had a real marriage once, Miss Whitfield. I know the difference between a wife and a possession. He held out his hand. You have my word. Sadie looked at it. Work roughened, steady, real. There's one more thing, she said. Your daughters. Tell me about them. Really tell me. Eli's hand dropped. For a moment he looked away. Margaret's the oldest, 14. She remembers her mama best, which means she remembers losing her best too. She reads everything she can find, keeps a journal, writes letters to her mama that she never sends. He paused. She won't trust you. Not at first. Maybe not ever. She's already decided nobody can replace what she lost. And the others. Charlotte's 12, quiet, watches everything, keeps her sisters in line when Margaret can't. She's the one who held the family together when I fell apart. Fell apart how? Eli's jaw worked. After my wife died, I couldn't look at them. Couldn't look at my own daughters without seeing her, so I buried myself in work. In the ranch, let them raise themselves while I tried to outrun grief. Sadie absorbed this. Go on. Eleanor's 10, sensitive. Cries at sad stories, at hurt animals, at anything she thinks is unfair. She's got her mama's tender heart. What was her mama's name? Mercy. His voice caught. Her name was Mercy. Pretty name. She was a pretty woman. Eli cleared his throat. After Eleanor, there's the twins, Josephine and Rosemary. They're 8, inseparable, finish each other's sentences, got their own language half the time. Twins. Sadie nodded. That's 5. Then there's Abigail. She's 5, shy, hides behind her sisters, barely talks to anyone outside the family. And the youngest? Patience. Eli's voice went rough. She's 3, never knew her mama, only knows what her sisters tell her. He looked at Sadie. She asks why, all the time. Why is the sky blue? Why do horses run? Why did mama go away? And I never have an answer that makes sense. 7 daughters. 7 different kinds of need. 7 chances to fail. They might hate me, Sadie said. Margaret will, for a while. And you're asking me to walk into that anyway. I'm asking you to try. His eyes met hers. That's all I can ask. That you try. Sadie thought about Cornelius Driscoll. About the river his second wife walked into. About what her life would become if she stayed. Then she thought about 7 little girls growing up without a mother raised by a father too broken to look at them. She reached out and took Eli's hand. Then I reckon you better start calling me Sadie. The preacher came that same afternoon. Reverend Thomas was a circuit rider, weathered by years of marrying desperate couples in desperate circumstances. He didn't ask questions, just looked at Sadie with kind, tired eyes. You sure about this, Miss Whitfield? Does it matter? Always matters. Marriage is a covenant. I won't speak the words if you don't mean them. Sadie thought about that. For better or worse, richer or poorer, in sickness and in health. I'll mean them, she said. Whatever else happens, I'll honor my part. The ceremony took 10 minutes. They stood in the dusty parlor of the boarding house with Mrs. Harmon and the boarding house owner as witnesses. Eli wore the same worn clothes. Sadie wore her mother's dress-faded blue cotton that smelled faintly of lavender and memory. Do you, Elijah Josiah Blackwood, take this woman? I do. And do you, Sadie Caroline Whitfield, take this man? Sadie looked at Eli. This stranger who would be her husband, whose children she'd mother, whose life she'd share for reasons neither of them fully understood. His gray eyes held hers, waiting, not demanding, just waiting. I do. Then by the power vested in me, I pronounce you man and wife. No kiss. They just nodded at each other. 2 people who'd struck a bargain and meant to keep it. Sadie signed the certificate. Sadie Caroline Blackwood. The name felt like a stranger's coat. Too big, wrong shape, borrowed. But it was hers now, whatever came next. They rode out the next morning. Sadie had said her goodbyes, visited her father's fresh grave one last time, placed wildflowers on the turned earth, and whispered words she'd never repeat to anyone. I'm keeping my promise, Papa. I'm surviving. Now she sat on a gray mare named Sage, watching the town shrink behind her. How far? She asked. 10 days if the weather holds. Eli guided his horse onto the northward trail. We'll follow the Oregon Trail partway, then cut northeast into the mountains. 10 days. Then 7 children. Then a life she couldn't imagine. Mr. Blackwood. Eli. We're married now. Might as well use first names. Eli. She tested the word. Tell me more about the valley. What am I riding into? He was quiet for a moment. It's hidden. My grandfather found it 40 years ago when he was running from debts of his own. Spent his whole life building it into something. Something like what? 30,000 acres, 2,000 head of cattle, 20 workers who stay year-round, more in summer. He glanced at her. It's isolated, cut off from the world when winter comes. The only way in or out closes from October to May. Sadie absorbed this. 30,000 acres, 2,000 cattle. The man sitting across from her in patched clothes and worn boots owned more land than most people saw in a lifetime. You ain't poor, she said flatly. Never said I was. You let me think it. I let you make your own assumptions. His eyes met hers. Would you have believed me if I'd ridden up in fine clothes claiming to be wealthy? Or would you have thought I was lying to take advantage? Sadie opened her mouth to argue, then closed it. He was right. She would have laughed him off, or reached for her daddy's rifle. So you tested me. I gave you a choice based on what you could verify. A marriage contract. Money to save yourself. Everything else. He gestured at the horizon, stretching endlessly ahead. Everything else is extra. That ain't the same as honest. Maybe not. He didn't look away. But I meant what I said about partnership, about not owning you. That part was true. Still is. They rode in silence for a while. The Kansas plains stretched out around them, flat and golden, shimmering in the summer heat. Your daughters, Sadie said finally. Do they know I'm coming? Eli's jaw tightened. They know I went south for a wife. That ain't the same thing. No, it ain't. Margaret's going to hate me. Probably. And you're just letting me walk in there blind. I told you about them. What they're like. What they've been through. He threw her a look. What else do you want to know? Sadie thought about it. Their mother, Mercy. What was she like? The name hit Eli like a physical blow. She saw the flinch. The way his shoulders curved inward like he was protecting something broken. She was kind, he said, his voice rough. Kinder than anyone I ever knew. She could walk into a room and make everyone feel like they mattered, like they were seen. He stared at the horizon. Margaret has her eyes. Same color, same way of looking right through you. It's hard sometimes. Looking at my daughter and seeing my wife. Is that why you can't? Sadie stopped herself. Can't what? Nothing. Say it. Sadie met his eyes. Is that why you can't give them what they need? Because looking at them hurts too much. The silence stretched between them, filled with hoofbeats and wind, and things neither of them wanted to say. Yes, Eli finally admitted. That's part of it. And you think I can fix that? I think you can help. He looked at her. That's all I'm asking. Sadie faced forward again, watching the trail unspool before them. This man she'd married. This stranger who carried his grief like a stone around his neck. She'd thought she was the desperate one. Now she wasn't so sure. They camped that night under a sky full of stars. Eli built a fire with hands that moved like they'd done this 1,000 times. He handed her dried meat and hard biscuits without ceremony. Get some rest. Tomorrow we start the hard part. Sadie chewed her food in silence. The fire crackled between them, throwing shadows across his face. Eli. Yeah. Why me? Really, there must have been women in Wyoming territory. Women who already knew ranch life. Women who could have... There were. He cut her off. 2 of them said yes, actually. Got all the way to the ranch, met my daughters, and left within a week. What happened? Margaret happened. His voice was flat. She made their lives miserable, hid their things, said cruel things when she thought I wasn't listening, made it clear they weren't welcome. And you let her? I didn't know. Not at first. She's clever, my Margaret. Knows how to hurt without leaving marks. He threw another stick on the fire. By the time I figured it out, the damage was done. They were gone. And Margaret was standing there with this look on her face like she'd won something. What did you do? I yelled, said things I shouldn't have, asked her why she was trying to destroy the only chance we had at being a family again. Eli's voice cracked. You know what she said. What? She said, we already were a family. Before Mama died, before you stopped looking at us, we were a family and we don't need some stranger pretending to be something she's not. Sadie was quiet for a long moment. She's not wrong. No, she's not. Eli met her eyes across the fire. That's why I came so far this time. Found someone who's already been through hell and survived. Someone who won't run just because a 14-year-old girl decides to make her life difficult. You think I won't run? I think you turned down Cornelius Driscoll 3 times when saying yes would have been easier. I think you dug your own father's grave with blistered hands. I think you're sitting here in the middle of nowhere married to a stranger riding toward a future you can't see. He almost smiled. I think running ain't in your nature, Sadie Blackwood. Sadie looked at him for a long moment, at this man who'd bought himself a wife and was hoping for a miracle. You're right, she said finally. It ain't. She lay down by the fire and closed her eyes. Somewhere ahead, in a hidden valley, she couldn't imagine 7 motherless girls were waiting. One of them had already decided to hate her. Sadie could feel it somehow. The way you feel a storm coming before the clouds appear. That girl was up there right now, planning how to make the new woman leave. How to protect her sisters from another loss. How to prove that no stranger could ever replace what they'd lost. Sadie didn't know all of this yet, but she was about to find out. The trail stretched northward into the unknown. 10 more days of riding before they reached the valley. 10 more days before Sadie met the 7 daughters who would change her life forever. And in a hidden valley in Wyoming territory, a 14-year-old girl named Margaret Blackwood was already sharpening her weapons. The valley revealed itself on the 10th day, just as Eli had promised. Sadie pulled her horse to a stop at the ridge and forgot to breathe. Below them, nestled between mountains that rose like fortress walls, lay a world she'd never imagined existed. Green pastures stretched for miles, dotted with cattle. A river cut through the center, glinting silver in the summer sun. And there, set on a gentle rise overlooking everything, stood a house that wasn't a house at all. Welcome to Hidden Creek Valley, Eli said quietly. Sadie couldn't speak. The man in patched clothes and worn boots owned all of this, every acre, every head of cattle, every building she could see. You lied to me, she finally managed. I told you I had a ranch. This ain't a ranch. This is a kingdom. Eli almost smiled. My grandfather would have liked you. They started down the trail, and with every step, Sadie's stomach tightened. The workers stopped what they were doing to stare. Men in dusty hats, women in aprons, all of them watching the boss come home with a stranger at his side. Word was spreading. She could see it moving through the valley like wildfire. A woman stood on the porch of the main house, gray-haired and sharp-eyed. She didn't move as they approached, just watched with an expression Sadie couldn't read. That's Martha Price, Eli said. Runs the household. Been here since before I was born. She looks like she's deciding whether to welcome me or shoot me. With Martha, it could go either way. They dismounted at the front steps. Martha came down slowly, her eyes never leaving Sadie's face. Mr. Blackwood, you're back early. Martha, this is my wife Sadie. One eyebrow rose, just a fraction, but Sadie caught it. Wife. You were gone 3 weeks and came back with a wife. The preacher can confirm it if you need. I don't need confirmation. Martha's gaze swept over Sadie, taking in the travel-stained dress, the wind-burned face, the stubborn set of her jaw. Mrs. Blackwood, welcome to the valley. Thank you, Mrs. Price. It's Miss. Never married, never wanted to. Martha paused. The children are inside. Margaret's been in her room since her father left. Hasn't come out except for meals. Something cold settled in Sadie's chest. 3 weeks. A 14-year-old girl had locked herself away for 3 weeks waiting to see what her father would bring home. And the others? Eli asked. Charlotte's been keeping them busy. That girl's got more sense than most adults I know. Martha's voice softened slightly. They're scared, Mr. Blackwood. All of them. Even the ones who won't admit it. I know. Do you? Because those girls have been waiting 2 years for their father to come back to them. Really come back. Not just be in the same house, but actually see them. Martha's eyes were hard. They don't need another woman who's going to leave. They need someone who's going to stay. I'm not leaving, Sadie said. Martha looked at her for a long moment. We'll see. She turned and walked back into the house. Eli let out a breath. That went better than I expected. That was better. She didn't mention the rifle. Before Sadie could respond, the front door burst open. A small figure came flying down the steps and launched herself at Eli's legs. Papa? Papa, you're home? Eli lifted the child into his arms, and Sadie watched his whole face transform. The exhaustion melted away. The grief retreated. For just a moment, he was simply a father holding his daughter. Hey there, Patience. Did you miss me? I counted the days. 21 days, Papa. That's 3 whole weeks. I know, sweetheart. I'm sorry I was gone so long. Patience pulled back, studying his face with the intensity only a 3-year-old could manage. Martha said you were bringing someone home. Someone important. I was. Eli turned so Patience could see Sadie. This is Sadie. She's going to live with us now. The little girl's eyes went wide. She had her father's dark hair and her mother's blue eyes. And when she looked at Sadie, there was no fear in her face, no hostility, just pure, unfiltered curiosity. Are you our new mama? The question hit Sadie like a physical blow. She'd prepared herself for hatred, for rejection. She hadn't prepared for this. Sadie's voice caught. Patience, we talked about this. Eli's voice was gentle but firm. Sadie isn't trying to replace Mama. Nobody can replace Mama. I know. Patience's lower lip trembled. But Martha says mamas take care of their children, and Sadie's going to take care of us, right? So isn't that the same thing? Sadie crouched down, bringing herself to the child's eye level. I'm not your mama, sweetheart. Your mama was special, and she loved you very much. I'm just Sadie. And I'm hoping we can be friends. Patience considered this with the seriousness of a judge weighing evidence. Do you like horses? I do. Do you like cookies? Very much. Do you like stories? Because Martha reads to us sometimes, but she doesn't do the voices right. Sadie felt her lips twitch. I like stories. And I do voices. Patience looked at her father. I think she's okay, Papa. Yeah. Eli's voice was rough. I think so too. Movement at the door. Sadie looked up to see more children emerging, drawn by curiosity despite themselves. A girl of about 12 came first, thin and watchful, her dark hair pulled back in a practical braid. She stopped on the porch, studying Sadie with eyes that saw everything and revealed nothing. Charlotte, Eli said. Come meet Sadie. Charlotte descended the steps slowly. She didn't offer her hand, didn't smile, but she didn't retreat either. Ma'am, she said quietly. Charlotte, your father's told me about you. I'm sure he has. The girl's voice was flat, carefully neutral. He tell you I'm the one who held everything together while he disappeared into his work. Charlotte. Eli's voice sharpened. It's all right. Sadie met the girl's eyes. He told me, and I'm not here to take that away from you. You've done something most adults couldn't do. That's worth respecting. Something flickered in Charlotte's expression. Surprise, maybe? Or the first crack in a wall she'd built carefully. We'll see, she said. The same words Martha had used. More children appeared. The twins came next, holding hands identical in every way except the ribbons in their hair. One wore blue, one wore green. I'm Josephine, said the one in blue. I'm Rosemary, said the one in green. We're 8, they said together. And we don't need a new mama, Josephine added. We have each other, Rosemary finished. Sadie nodded. Fair enough, but maybe you could use a friend. The twins exchanged a look, communicating in that silent language only twins understood. "Maybe," Josephine said. "We'll think about it," Rosemary added. They retreated back into the house, still holding hands. A girl of about 10 appeared next, her eyes red-rimmed like she'd been crying. She was thin, fragile-looking, with the pale skin of someone who spent too much time indoors. "Eleanor," Eli said softly. "Come say hello." Eleanor crept forward, stopping several feet away. "Papa, is she really going to stay? Because the others didn't stay. They said they would, but they lied." "I don't lie," Sadie said. "Everybody lies." "Not me. Not about the important things." Sadie held the girl's gaze. "I'm going to stay, Eleanor. That's a promise." Eleanor's lower lip trembled. "Margaret says promises don't mean anything." "What do you think?" The girl was quiet for a long moment. "I think I want to believe you." "Then believe me. And if I ever give you a reason not to, you can tell me to my face." Eleanor nodded slowly, then turned and fled back inside. Eli watched her go, his jaw tight. "She's the sensitive one. Takes everything to heart." I noticed. A small figure peeked around the doorframe. 5 years old, Sadie guessed. Abigail, the shy one. She didn't come out, just watched from the shadows with wide, frightened eyes. "Hey there," Sadie said gently. "You don't have to come out if you don't want to. I'll be here when you're ready." Abigail disappeared back into the darkness. 6 children. She'd met 6 of the 7, which meant, "Where's Margaret?" Eli's expression hardened. "Her room. She hasn't come down since Martha told her I was bringing someone back." "Should I?" "No." His voice was sharp. "Give her time. She'll come out when she's ready." "And if she's never ready?" Eli didn't answer. Martha appeared in the doorway. "I've had a room prepared for Mrs. Blackwood, the blue room in the east wing." "Not the master bedroom?" Sadie asked. "That was Mercy's room." Martha's voice was flat. "No one slept there in 2 years." Sadie looked at Eli. He wouldn't meet her eyes. "The blue room is fine," she said. Martha led her inside. The house was bigger than it looked from outside, rooms opening onto rooms, hallways, stretching in every direction. But beneath the grandeur, there was something else, something wrong. Dust gathered in corners. Curtains were drawn against the summer sun. The air smelled stale, unused, like a house that had stopped being a home. "It wasn't always like this," Martha said quietly, as if reading her thoughts. "When Mrs. Blackwood was alive, this house was full of light, full of laughter, music in the evenings, flowers on every table. What happened? She died, and everyone else just stopped living too." They climbed the stairs in silence. Martha stopped at a door halfway down the hall. "This is you. Baths down the hall. Dinner's at 6. She paused. "Mrs. Blackwood." "Yes." "Those children have been through hell. 2 years of watching their father fade away, of losing governesses, of learning not to hope for anything." Martha's eyes were fierce. "If you're going to leave, do it now, tonight, before they start to care about you." "I told you, I'm not leaving." "Words are easy." "Then watch what I do." Sadie met the older woman's gaze. "I didn't come here looking for easy, Miss Price. I came here because I made a promise. To my husband, to my dying father, to myself. And I don't break promises." Martha studied her for a long moment. Then slowly something in her face shifted. Not warmth, not yet, but the beginning of respect. "Dinner's at 6, she said again, and walked away. Sadie entered her room and closed the door behind her, leaned against it, let out a breath she felt like she'd been holding for days. She'd made it. She was here. Now, the real work began. Dinner was a battlefield. Sadie sat at the long table surrounded by children who watched her like she was a dangerous animal. Patients chattered happily, oblivious to the tension. Charlotte served food in silence. The twins whispered to each other. Eleanor pushed peas around her plate. Abigail sat as far from Sadie as possible, eating nothing. And at the head of the table, one chair remained empty. Margaret hadn't come down. "She'll eat later," Charlotte said flatly. "In her room, like always." "Does she always miss dinner?" Sadie asked. "Only when there's someone new at the table." The twins giggled. It wasn't a nice sound. "Girls," Eli's voice cut through. "That's enough." "But Papa," "I said enough." Silence fell. Heavy, uncomfortable, suffocating. Sadie picked up her fork, put it down, picked it up again. "This is good," she said. "The food. Did Martha make it?" "Charlotte did," Eleanor said quietly. "She does most of the cooking now." "You can cook?" Sadie looked at the 12-year-old. "That's impressive." Charlotte shrugged. "Someone had to." The words hung in the air. Someone had to, because their mother was dead, and their father had disappeared into grief, and the governesses had left, and someone had to. Sadie set down her fork. "Charlotte, how long have you been cooking for this family?" "Since the last housekeeper quit, about a year ago." "And before that?" "The governess before that." "And before that?" Charlotte's jaw tightened. "Mama." "So, for 2 years you've been taking care of everyone. Making meals, cleaning, making sure your sisters are fed and clothed and— What's your point?" Charlotte's voice was hard defensive. "My point is that you shouldn't have had to. You're 12 years old. You should be reading books and playing with friends and learning how to be a child." Sadie's voice softened. "I'm not here to replace you, Charlotte. I'm here to let you stop carrying weight that was never yours to carry." Charlotte stared at her. Her lip trembled. Then her face closed off again, that protective wall slamming back into place. "May I be excused?" she asked, not looking at anyone. "Charlotte," Eli started. "Let her go," Sadie said quietly. Charlotte fled from the table. The twins watched her go, then turned to Sadie with identical expressions of hostility. "You made her cry," Josephine said. "Charlotte never cries," Rosemary added. "She's not crying," Sadie said. "She's feeling something she's been trying not to feel for 2 years. There's a difference." "You don't know anything about us," Josephine said. "You're right, I don't. Not yet." Sadie looked at each of them in turn. "But I'm going to learn, whether you want me to or not." She stood. "Thank you for dinner. I think I'll turn in early. It's been a long journey." She walked out of the dining room without looking back. Sadie didn't go to her room. She climbed the stairs past her door and kept walking until she reached the end of the hallway, until she stood in front of a door with light showing underneath. Margaret's room. She knocked. "Go away!" The voice was young, fierce, already full of hatred. "I'm not going anywhere." "I said go away." "And I said no." Sadie leaned against the doorframe. "I'm going to stand right here until you open this door. Could be all night. I've got nothing but time." Silence. Then, "You're wasting your time. I'll never accept you." "I know." "Then why are you here?" "Because your father asked me to be. Because your sisters need someone. Because—" Sadie paused. "Because I made a promise to my dying father that I'd help children who lost their mother remember how to laugh." The silence changed. Became something different. Something listening. "Your father's dead." Margaret's voice was quieter now. 3 weeks ago, I buried him myself, dug his grave with my own hands." Sadie's throat tightened. "Then I married a stranger and rode 10 days into the mountains to a hidden valley where 7 girls who lost their mama are waiting to see if I'm going to leave like everyone else." No response. "I'm not going to leave, Margaret. I know you don't believe me. I know you've already decided to hate me. But I'm telling you anyway because someday when you finally believe it, I want you to remember that I told you from the start." Still nothing. Sadie pushed away from the door. "Good night, Margaret. I'll see you tomorrow, or the next day, or the day after that, however long it takes." She started walking away. "Wait." Sadie stopped, turned. The door opened. Just a crack. just enough for her to see one blue eye, one streak of dark hair. Mercy's eyes, Eli had said. The same color, the same way of looking right through you. Why did you really come here? Margaret's voice was barely a whisper. The truth, not the pretty story you told downstairs. Sadie considered lying, considered softening the truth, decided against it. Because a man named Cornelius Driscoll wanted to buy me as his wife. His second wife walked into a river and drowned herself. I figured I'd rather take my chances with 7 angry children than end up at the bottom of a river. Margaret stared at her. So you ran away? I made a choice. There's a difference. Is there? Yes. Sadie held the girl's gaze. Running is what you do when you're too scared to face something. Choosing is what you do when you look at your options and pick the one that scares you less. And my father scared you less than this Driscoll man. Your father offered me a partnership. Driscoll offered me a cage. Sadie shrugged. Wasn't a hard choice. Margaret was quiet for a long moment. Then, I'm still going to hate you. I know. And I'm going to make your life miserable until you leave. I know that too. So why are you smiling? Sadie realized she was. Because you opened the door. That's more than you did for the others, isn't it? Margaret's eye widened. Just a fraction. Just enough. Good night, Margaret. The door closed. Sadie walked back to her room, her heart pounding. It wasn't victory. It wasn't even progress, really. But it was something. A crack in the wall, and cracks could become openings. The next morning, Sadie woke before dawn. She dressed quickly in the plainest dress she'd brought and made her way downstairs. The house was dark, silent, sleeping. She found the kitchen by memory and started a fire in the stove. By the time the sun came up, she had biscuits baking, coffee brewing, and bacon sizzling in a pan. Martha found her first. What do you think you're doing? Making breakfast. Sadie didn't turn around. I figured Charlotte could use a morning off. Mrs. Blackwood. Sadie, please. Martha was quiet for a moment. You know how to cook. My mama died when I was 8. I've been cooking since I was tall enough to reach the stove. Sadie finally turned. I'm not trying to take over Miss Price. I'm trying to help. Martha studied her. Then slowly she moved to the cupboard and pulled out a stack of plates. The girls like their bacon crispy. Patience won't eat eggs unless they're scrambled soft. And Charlotte... She paused. Charlotte hasn't let anyone cook for her since her mother died. Then maybe it's time someone did. They worked in silence after that, moving around each other with surprising ease. By the time the children started appearing, breakfast was on the table. Patience came first, drawn by the smell of bacon. Her eyes went wide. Did you make this? I did. It smells like Mama's breakfast. The words were out before Patience could stop them. Her face crumpled. I mean, I didn't... I'm sorry. Hey. Sadie crouched down, taking the child's hands. You don't have to be sorry. It's okay to remember your mama. It's okay to miss her. And if my cooking reminds you of her, then that's a good thing. That means she taught someone else her recipes, and her love is still here in this kitchen. Patience's lip trembled. Really? Really? The little girl threw her arms around Sadie's neck. Over her shoulder, Sadie saw Charlotte standing in the doorway, watching. Her face was unreadable. The twins came next. Then Eleanor, then Abigail, creeping along the wall like a shadow. They sat at the table, staring at the food like they'd never seen breakfast before. Eat, Sadie said, before it gets cold. Nobody moved. Then Charlotte stepped forward, picked up a biscuit, took a bite. It's good, she said quietly. Really good. Something broke. The twins reached for bacon. Eleanor took an egg. Even Abigail picked up her fork. Eli appeared in the doorway, still half asleep, and stopped. You cooked. Someone had to. Sadie echoed Charlotte's words from the night before, but softened them with a smile. Sit down. Eat. He sat. He ate. And for the first time since Sadie had arrived, something that almost resembled normalcy settled over the table. Margaret didn't come down, but that was okay. Sadie hadn't expected her to. Not yet. Baby steps. The next week passed in a blur of small victories and smaller defeats. Sadie learned the rhythms of the house, learned which floorboards creaked, learned that Patience had nightmares about her mother and needed to sleep with a candle lit, learned that Eleanor cried every time she read a sad story, which was often, learned that the twins communicated in a language of gestures and half-finished sentences that no one else could follow. She learned that Charlotte watched her constantly weighing everything she did, everything she said. She learned that Abigail had started creeping closer, not touching, not talking, but no longer running away. And she learned that Margaret was always there, even when she wasn't visible, watching from windows, listening from doorways, taking notes, planning. It started small. Sadie's brush went missing, then her hairpins. Then her second dress, which she found crumpled at the bottom of the laundry pile, stained with something that looked like mud but smelled like manure. She said nothing. Then the accident started. A loose step that nearly sent her tumbling down the stairs. A door that locked behind her, trapping her in the pantry for an hour. A spider in her bed, not dangerous, but clearly placed there intentionally. She said nothing. Then came the salt. Sadie had spent all afternoon making a cake for Patience's 4th birthday. Chocolate 3 layers, the recipe she'd learned from her mother. She'd left it cooling on the counter while she went to fetch the frosting ingredients. When she came back, the cake was ruined, crusted with salt, inedible. And Margaret was standing in the kitchen doorway, watching. "What a shame," the girl said flatly. "All that work for nothing." Sadie looked at the cake, looked at Margaret, looked back at the cake. Then she picked up a knife and started cutting. "What are you doing?" Margaret demanded. "Cutting around the damaged parts." Sadie's voice was calm. "The inside's probably still good. We can salvage most of it. But it's ruined. It's damaged. There's a difference." Sadie glanced up. "You know what my mama used to say? She used to say that anything broken can be fixed as long as you're willing to put in the work." Margaret's jaw tightened. "Your mama sounds naive." "My mama died when I was 8 years old. She was the strongest woman I ever knew, and she wasn't naive, she just believed that giving up was the only real failure." Silence. Sadie kept cutting. The center of the cake was intact. Enough for a smaller cake maybe, but still chocolate. Still sweet. Still good. "Why won't you leave?" Margaret's voice cracked. "Why won't you just give up and go like everyone else?" Sadie set down the knife. "Because I'm not everyone else, Margaret, and because giving up isn't something I know how to do. Everyone gives up eventually. Not me. You will, when you realize we don't want you here, when you realize Papa only married you because he was desperate, when you realize you'll never be our mother, never be part of this family, never be anything but a stranger in our house." Sadie turned to face her fully. "You're right. I'll never be your mother. Your mother is dead, and nothing I do can change that. I'm not trying to replace her, Margaret. I'm not trying to make you forget her. I'm just trying to be here, to help, to give your father and your sisters a chance to remember how to be a family again. We were a family before you came. Were you?" Sadie's voice was gentle. "Or were you 7 broken people living in the same house, too scared to love each other, because you were all too scared of losing anyone else?" Margaret's face went white. "You don't know anything. I know what grief looks like. I know what it does to people. I watched my father die by inches for 3 years, Margaret. I know what it's like to hold everything together when all you want to do is fall apart." "Stop it. I know what it's like to be so angry at God, at the world, at everyone who still has the person you lost that you want to scream until your throat bleeds. Stop it. And I know what it's like to push everyone away because you're terrified that if you let them in, you'll lose them too." Margaret was crying now, tears streaming down her face. "I hate you," she whispered. "I know. I'll never stop hating you." "Maybe, maybe not." Sadie took a step toward her. "But I'm going to keep showing up anyway, every day, no matter what you do, no matter what you say, because that's what family does. They show up. Even when it's hard, even when it hurts, they show up." Margaret stared at her through her tears. Then she turned and fled. Sadie stood alone in the kitchen, surrounded by ruined cake, her heart pounding in her chest. She hadn't won, but she hadn't lost either. That night, Eli found her on the porch, staring at the stars. "Martha told me about the cake." "It's fine. I salvaged most of it. Patients won't know the difference." "That's not what I mean." He stood beside her, close but not touching. "I'm sorry about Margaret. I'll talk to her." "Don't." "Sadie." "I said don't." She turned to face him. "If you fight her battles for me, she'll never respect me. She needs to see that I can handle whatever she throws at me. She needs to test me until she's satisfied that I won't break. And if you do break, then I was never strong enough to help this family anyway." Sadie looked back at the stars. "But I won't break, Eli. I've been through too much to break now." Eli was quiet for a long moment. "You're not what I expected," he said finally. "What did you expect?" "I don't know. Someone softer, maybe. Someone who would cry and give up and make me feel like I'd made a mistake." "Are you disappointed?" "No." His voice was rough. "I'm grateful." He reached out. His hand found hers in the darkness. Rough fingers intertwining with hers. Neither of them pulled away. "Thank you," he said quietly. "For staying. For trying. For not giving up on us." Sadie squeezed his hand. "Thank me when it's over," she said. "We're just getting started." 3 weeks into her new life, Sadie woke to the sound of screaming. She was out of bed before her eyes fully opened, bare feet hitting cold floor, heart hammering against her ribs. The screams were coming from down the hall. High-pitched, terrified. A child's screams. She ran. Eleanor's door was open. The 10-year-old was sitting up in bed, eyes wide, and unseeing, shrieking at something only she could see. "Mama! Mama, don't go! Please don't go!" Sadie crossed the room in 3 strides and gathered the child into her arms. "Eleanor. Eleanor, wake up. It's a dream. Just a dream." The girl thrashed against her, still caught in whatever nightmare had her trapped. "She's leaving. She's walking away, and I can't stop her." "Eleanor, listen to my voice. You're safe. You're in your bed. I'm right here." Slowly, painfully, the screaming faded to sobs. Eleanor's body went limp against Sadie's chest, trembling like a leaf in a storm. "She was there," Eleanor whispered. "Mama was right there. And then she just disappeared." "I know, sweetheart. I know. I miss her so much." "I know you do." Sadie held her rocking, gently murmuring nonsense words the way her own mother had done a lifetime ago. The way she'd held her father through his final weeks. The way she'd learned to comfort without being able to fix. Footsteps in the doorway. She looked up to see Charlotte standing there, her face pale in the moonlight. "She has these dreams sometimes," Charlotte said flatly. "About Mama. About losing her." "How often?" "Couple times a week. More when she's upset about something." "And who usually comes?" Charlotte's jaw tightened. "Me. Papa's room is too far. He doesn't hear." Or he doesn't want to hear, Sadie thought, but didn't say. "Go back to bed, Charlotte. I've got her." "You sure?" "I'm sure." Charlotte hesitated. For a moment, something flickered in her eyes. Gratitude, maybe, or relief at finally having someone else to share the weight. Then she was gone. Sadie held Eleanor until the trembling stopped, until the sobs faded to hiccups, until the child's breathing evened out into sleep. She laid her gently back on the pillow and pulled the blanket up to her chin. "I've got you," she whispered. "I've got all of you." She didn't go back to her own room. Instead, she settled into the chair by Eleanor's bed and watched the night fade into dawn. When morning came, Eleanor found her there, still keeping guard. "You stayed," the girl said, wonder in her voice. "Of course I did. The governesses never stayed. They'd come check on me, tell me to go back to sleep and leave." "I'm not a governess." Eleanor was quiet for a moment. Then slowly, she reached out and took Sadie's hand. "Thank you." It was the first time any of them had touched her willingly. Sadie squeezed back, not trusting herself to speak. The fever came 2 days later. Sadie noticed it first at breakfast. Abigail, the shy one, who'd finally started creeping closer, who'd let Sadie brush her hair just yesterday, sat slumped in her chair. Her face was flushed. Her eyes were glassy. "Abigail, you feeling okay?" The 5-year-old didn't answer, just stared at her plate, swaying slightly. Sadie pressed her hand to the child's forehead, and her blood ran cold. "Martha, get Martha, now." Charlotte ran. Sadie lifted Abigail from the chair, cradling her against her chest. The child was burning up her small body, radiating heat like a furnace. "Papa?" Abigail's voice was thin, confused. "Where's Papa?" "He's coming, sweetheart. He's coming." But Eli was out checking cattle in the north pasture. A 2-hour ride at least. Martha arrived at a run, took one look at Abigail and went pale. "How long has she been like this?" "I don't know. She was fine last night. She was..." Sadie's voice cracked. "What do we do?" "Get her upstairs. I'll fetch water and cloths. We need to bring that fever down." They moved as 1 year of unspoken practice taking over. Martha had done this before. Had watched children burn with fever in this valley, where doctors were days away. Some of those children had survived. Some hadn't. Sadie carried Abigail to her room and laid her on the bed. The child was mumbling now words that didn't make sense, her eyes rolling back. "Mama, is that you, Mama?" Sadie's heart shattered. "No, baby. It's Sadie. But I'm here. I'm right here. Want Mama. Please. Want Mama." The other children gathered in the doorway. Patience was crying. Eleanor clutched Charlotte's hand. The twins stood frozen, their usual confidence stripped away. And behind them all, Margaret watched with eyes full of something Sadie couldn't read. "Everyone out," Sadie said. "Charlotte, keep them busy. I don't care how. Just keep them away from this room. But go, please." Charlotte nodded and herded the others away, all except Margaret, who stood her ground. "I'm not leaving." "Margaret." "She's my sister." Margaret's voice cracked. "I was there when she was born. I was the first one to hold her after Mama died. I'm not leaving." Sadie looked at the 14-year-old, at the terror behind the defiance, at the girl who'd spent 2 years holding herself apart, protecting herself from loss by refusing to let anyone get close. "Then help me. Hold her hand. Talk to her. Keep her anchored." Margaret moved to the bed without hesitation, took Abigail's small hand in hers. "I'm here, Abby. Big sister's here. Maggie." The child's eyes fluttered open. "I feel bad." "I know, baby, but you're going to be okay. Sadie's going to make you better." Margaret looked up, met Sadie's eyes. "You are going to make her better, right?" It wasn't a challenge, it was a plea. Sadie grabbed the cloths Martha had brought and dipped them in cool water. "I'm going to try." The next hours blurred together in a haze of fear and desperate action. Sadie worked without stopping. Cooling cloths applied and reapplied. Sips of water forced between cracked lips. Prayers she didn't know she remembered whispered into the darkness. The fever wouldn't break. Abigail drifted in and out of consciousness, sometimes lucid, mostly lost in a world of fever dreams. She called for her mother. She called for her father. Once, just once, she called for Sadie. That was the moment Sadie started crying. "Stay with me, baby. Please, stay with me." Martha came and went, bringing supplies, taking reports, her face growing grimmer with each passing hour. "Where's Eli?" Sadie demanded. "Tom rode out to find him. Should be back soon." "Soon isn't good enough." "I know." Night fell. The fever climbed higher. Margaret refused to leave. She sat beside her sister, holding her hand, singing lullabies their mother had sung. Her voice was thin cracking, but she didn't stop. "Mama used to sing this one," she whispered to Sadie. "When we were sick, she'd sing and stroke our hair and tell us everything was going to be okay." "Do you remember her voice?" Margaret's face crumpled. "I used to. But it's fading. Every year it fades a little more, and I'm so scared that one day I'll wake up and she'll be gone completely." Sadie reached across Abigail's still form and took Margaret's hand. "She won't be gone. Not completely. She lives in you, in your sisters, in the songs you sing and the stories you tell. As long as you remember her, she's still here." Tears streamed down Margaret's face. "I'm sorry," she choked out. "For everything. The salt and the spider and the dress and all of it. I'm sorry. I know. I was so scared. Of losing anyone else. Of loving someone new and then watching them leave. It was easier to push you away than to let you in. I know that too. How can you forgive me, after everything I did?" Sadie squeezed her hand. "Because I understand. Because I've been where you are. And because holding on to anger takes energy, I'd rather spend on keeping your sister alive." Margaret broke down, completely sobbing with her head on the bed beside Abigail. Sadie let her cry. Sometimes that was all you could do. Let the grief out. Let it breathe. Let it begin to heal. Eli burst through the door just before midnight. His face was wild, streaked with dust and fear. He crossed the room in 2 strides and fell to his knees beside Abigail's bed. "How bad?" "Bad." Sadie didn't soften it. "The fever's not breaking. I've tried everything I know." "There has to be something. There has to be—" "Papa?" Margaret's voice cut through his panic. "Stop. Sadie's been fighting for hours. She hasn't slept, hasn't eaten. She's doing everything she can." Eli looked at his oldest daughter. Something passed between them, some understanding that Sadie wasn't part of. "What do you need?" he asked Sadie. "I need more water, fresh cloths, and I need you to pray if you know how." "I stopped praying when Mercy died." "Then start again, for your daughter." Eli bowed his head. The fever broke at dawn. One moment Abigail was burning. The next she shivered. Her skin cooled. Her eyes fluttered open, clear for the first time in 18 hours. "Sadie?" Sadie collapsed against the bed, tears streaming down her face. "I'm here, baby. I'm right here. I had a dream. Mama was there. She said she's happy now. She said I shouldn't be sad anymore." Sadie couldn't speak, could only nod, could only hold this child she'd known for 3 weeks and already loved more than she'd thought possible. "She said something else too." Abigail's voice was dreamy, fading toward sleep. "She said thank you for taking care of us. She said you're doing a good job." The child's eyes closed. Her breathing evened out into healthy sleep. Sadie sat there, shaking, empty, feeling like she'd run 100 miles. A hand on her shoulder. She looked up to see Eli standing behind her, his face wet with tears. "You saved her." "We all did." "No, you did." His voice cracked. "I would have lost her. If you hadn't been here, if you hadn't known what to do, I would have lost another one. But you didn't. Because of you." He knelt beside her, taking her hands in his. "Sadie, I don't know how to say this. I don't know how to—" "Then don't say anything." She was too tired for words, too wrung out for speeches. "Just be here. That's all I need. Just be here." He pulled her close, held her against his chest, let her fall apart the way she'd let his daughters fall apart. And for the first time since she'd ridden into this valley, Sadie felt like maybe, just maybe, she might actually belong. The letter arrived 3 days later. Sadie was in the kitchen teaching Charlotte how to make her mother's biscuit recipe when Martha appeared in the doorway. "Mrs. Blackwood, there's a writer from town. He brought this." She held out an envelope. Sadie recognized the handwriting immediately. Mrs. Harmon. Her hands trembled as she tore it open. "Dear Mrs. Blackwood, it is with deep sorrow that I must inform you that your father passed away peacefully in his sleep 6 days after your departure. The doctor says he felt no pain. His last words were of you. He said he was proud of you. He said you were the bravest person he ever knew. We buried him beside your mother, as you requested. The headstone is beautiful. Mr. Blackwood's money covered everything and more. I'm sorry I couldn't send word sooner. The trails have been difficult. Your father loved you, Sadie. Never forget that. With deepest sympathy, Mrs. Ellen Harmon." The letter fell from Sadie's fingers. "Sadie?" Charlotte's voice came from far away. "Sadie, what's wrong?" She couldn't answer. Couldn't breathe. Couldn't think. Papa was dead. She'd known it was coming. Had said goodbye knowing she might never see him again. But knowing and feeling were different things. Sadie? She was on the floor. When had she fallen? The kitchen tiles were cold against her cheek. Footsteps, voices, hands lifting her up. "Get Mr. Blackwood, now." Everything went gray. She woke in her room, the afternoon sun slanting through the window. Eli sat in a chair beside her bed, his face drawn with worry. "Hey," he said softly. "You're back." "My father." Her voice came out cracked, broken. "He's gone." "I know. Martha told me." He took her hand. "I'm sorry, Sadie. I'm so sorry. I wasn't there." The tears came now flooding out in a rush she couldn't stop. "He died and I wasn't there. I left him alone to die." "You didn't leave him alone, Mrs. Harmon was with him. And he knew you were safe. He knew you had a chance at a new life." "But I should have been there. I should have what?" "Watched him die slowly. Let Driscoll take you, thrown away, everything he sacrificed for." Sadie couldn't answer. "Your father wanted you to live." Eli's voice was fierce. "That's why he let you go. That's why he made you promise to survive. He didn't want you standing by his bedside. He wanted you building something new." "How do you know that?" "Because I'm a father. Because I know what I'd want for my daughters." He squeezed her hand. "Let yourself grieve, Sadie. Let yourself feel it. But don't you dare feel guilty for honoring your father's last wish." She broke completely then. Eli held her while she cried. Held her while the grief poured out in waves. Held her until there was nothing left. When she finally quieted, exhausted beyond words, she found she wasn't alone. The children had gathered in the doorway. All 7 of them. Even Margaret. "We're sorry about your papa," Patience said, her small face serious. "Martha told us he died. I know what it's like." Eleanor's voice trembled. "Missing someone. Feeling like there's a hole inside that never gets filled. We brought you something." Charlotte stepped forward, holding a small book. It was Mama's. Her journal. She wrote in it every day until she couldn't anymore. Sadie's breath caught. "Charlotte, I can't." "You can. We want you to have it." Charlotte's eyes were wet. Margaret's idea, actually. She thought maybe reading about Mama might help. Knowing that someone else understood. Sadie looked at Margaret standing at the back of the group, her face uncertain. "Thank you," Sadie whispered. Margaret nodded once. Then slowly she crossed the room and sat on the edge of the bed. "Mama wrote about us," she said quietly. "About each of us. What she hoped for us. What she dreamed." She paused. "She wrote about dying too. About knowing she might not survive Patience's birth. About being scared but also at peace because she knew Papa would take care of us." She was wrong about that, though. Charlotte's voice was bitter. Papa didn't take care of us. He fell apart. I know. Margaret looked at her father, who sat frozen, his face gray. But I think maybe he's starting to find his way back. Eli made a sound, something between a sob and a gasp. I'm sorry. The words burst out of him, broken, desperate. I'm so sorry. I should have been there. I should have been stronger. I should have... Papa. Margaret stood and crossed to her father, put her hands on his shoulders. Stop. It's okay. It's not okay. I failed you. All of you. I let my grief drown me while you were drowning too. But you came back. You brought Sadie. You're trying now. Margaret's voice cracked. That's what matters. Not what you did wrong. What you're doing to make it right. Father and daughter stared at each other. Then Eli pulled her into his arms, holding her tight, and Margaret let him. Sadie watched through her tears, watched this family begin to knit itself back together. And despite the grief crushing her chest, despite the loss that would never fully heal, she felt something else too. Hope. That night, after the children were in bed, Sadie sat on the porch reading Mercy's journal. The handwriting was elegant, flowing the words of a woman who loved deeply and feared nothing. My daughters are the light of my life. One entry read, I look at them and see everything good in the world, everything worth fighting for. Another entry dated weeks before Patience was born. I'm scared. The doctor says there might be complications, but I can't let my girls see my fear. They need to believe that everything will be okay, even if I'm not sure it will be. And the final entry written in shaky handwriting. If you're reading this, it means I didn't make it. Don't cry for me. I lived a beautiful life. I loved and was loved. What more could anyone ask? Take care of my girls, all of them. Even Eli, who will be lost without me. Help him remember that grief is not forever. Help him find his way back to joy. And know that wherever I am, I'm watching. I'm proud. I'm grateful. With all my love, Mercy. Sadie closed the journal, tears streaming down her face. I'll try, she whispered into the darkness. I promise I'll try. The stars wheeled overhead, and somewhere, somehow, she felt certain that Mercy Blackwood was listening. Morning brought new purpose. Sadie woke with her father's loss still heavy on her heart, but beneath it, something stronger. A resolve that had been tested by fire and emerged intact. She was staying. Not because of a contract, not because of desperation, but because this was where she belonged. She found Eli in the barn, brushing his horse. His movements mechanical, his mind clearly elsewhere. We need to talk, she said. He turned. About what? About us, about this family, about what happens next. Eli set down the brush. I'm listening. Sadie took a breath. I didn't come here looking for love. Neither did you. We came here because we were both broken and thought maybe two broken people could build something whole. And now I think we were right. She stepped closer. I love your daughters, Eli. All 7 of them. Even Margaret, who spent weeks trying to drive me away. Even Charlotte, who doesn't trust anyone. Even Abigail, who almost died in my arms. And me? His voice was rough. Do you love me? Sadie looked at him. At this man she'd married out of desperation. This stranger who had become so much more. I'm getting there, she said honestly. I don't know what love looks like yet. Not this kind. But I know I don't want to leave. I know I want to see what we could become. Eli closed the distance between them. His hand came up to cup her face. That's enough, he said. For now, that's enough. He kissed her. It was soft, gentle, a promise rather than a demand. When they parted, Sadie smiled for the first time in days. We should get back, she said. The girls will be wondering where we are. Let them wonder. But he took her hand, and together they walked back toward the house, toward their family, toward whatever came next. Summer deepened into August, and the valley transformed around them. Sadie stood at the kitchen window, watching Patience chase butterflies across the meadow. 3 months since she'd ridden into this hidden world. 3 months since she'd married a stranger and inherited 7 daughters who didn't want her. Everything had changed. "You're smiling." She turned to find Margaret in the doorway, a basket of eggs in her hands. "Am I?" "You are. You do that a lot now." Margaret set the basket on the counter. "It's weird." "Weird good or weird bad?" Margaret considered. "Just weird. We're not used to people being happy around here. Maybe it's time you got used to it." A ghost of a smile crossed Margaret's face. Not much, but enough. More than Sadie had ever gotten from her before. "The twins are fighting again," Margaret said. "Something about a hair ribbon. I told them to sort it out themselves." "And—" Josephine bit Rosemary. Sadie sighed. "I'll handle it." "You always do." Margaret paused at the door. "Sadie." "Yeah. Thank you. For not giving up on us." She was gone before Sadie could respond. The twins were indeed fighting when Sadie found them in the parlor. Rosemary was crying, holding her arm where teeth marks were clearly visible. Josephine stood in the corner, defiant, clutching a blue ribbon. "It's mine," Josephine shouted. "She took it without asking." "I didn't take it, I borrowed it." "That's the same thing." "Enough." Sadie's voice cut through their shouting. Both girls froze. "Josephine, come here." The 8-year-old shuffled forward, chin still raised, but her lip was trembling. "Did you bite your sister?" "She deserved it." "That's not what I asked. Did you bite her?" A long pause. "Yes." "Look at her arm. Look at what you did." Josephine looked. The defiance crumbled. I didn't mean to hurt her that bad." "When you hurt someone, you don't get to decide how bad it is. They do." Sadie crouched down, meeting Josephine's eyes. "Your sister is crying. She's in pain. Is any ribbon worth that?" Tears spilled down Josephine's cheeks. "No." "Then what do you say?" Josephine turned to Rosemary. "I'm sorry. I'm really sorry. I didn't mean to—" Rosemary launched herself at her twin, wrapping her arms around her. "It's okay. I'm sorry too. I should have asked first." The girls clung to each other, crying and apologizing and forgiving all at once. Sadie watched them, her heart full. 3 months ago, these two had presented a united front of hostility. Now they were learning to fight and make up, learning to be sisters again. "Sadie," Rosemary looked up, still holding her twin. "Can we have cookies? Mama always gave us cookies when we made up after a fight." Sadie smiled. "I think that can be arranged." That evening, Eli found her in the garden pulling weeds by moonlight. "You know there's no rush on that," he said. "The weeds will still be there tomorrow." "I couldn't sleep." He settled beside her, his shoulder brushing hers. "Want to talk about it?" "Just thinking." "About what?" Sadie sat back on her heels, looking up at the stars. "About how different everything is. About how scared I was when I first got here. About how I didn't think I'd ever belong. And now I can't imagine being anywhere else." Eli was quiet for a moment. Then he reached out and took her hand. "Mercy would have liked you." Sadie's breath caught. He'd barely mentioned his first wife since she arrived. The name had been a wound too raw to touch. "You think so?" "I know so. She always said the strongest people were the ones who'd been broken and put themselves back together." His voice roughened. "That's you, Sadie. Broken and rebuilt, and stronger for it." "I'm not that strong." "You are. You just don't see it yet." He turned to face her. "I need to tell you something." "What?" "I was scared when I went looking for a wife. Scared I'd make another mistake. Scared I'd bring someone home who'd make things worse instead of better." He paused. I almost didn't approach you. You were standing there with that axe looking like you'd take my head off if I said the wrong thing. Sadie laughed. I probably would have. But then I watched you turn down Driscoll, watched you stand your ground when anyone else would have folded, and I knew. Knew what? That you were the one who could save us. His eyes met hers in the moonlight. I was right. Sadie felt tears prick her eyes. Eli. I love you, Sadie. The words hung between them, heavy with meaning. I know I shouldn't say it yet. I know we agreed this was a partnership, not a romance, but I can't help it. I watch you with my daughters. I watch you fight for this family, and every day I fall a little more. Sadie stared at him. This man who'd bought her for $400. This stranger who'd become her husband, her partner, her friend. I love you too, she whispered. She hadn't known it was true until she said it. But the moment the words left her lips, she felt the truth of them settle into her bones. Eli pulled her close and kissed her. Not gentle this time, not tentative. This kiss was fierce, desperate, two people who'd finally stopped fighting what they felt. When they parted, both breathing hard, Sadie laughed. What's funny? Nothing. Everything. I just never thought I'd find this. After everything I lost, I never thought I'd find something worth keeping. Neither did I. Eli pressed his forehead to hers. But here we are. Here we are. The next morning, Patience announced at breakfast that she wanted to call Sadie Mama. The table went silent. Patience? Eli started. I know she's not my real mama, the 4-year-old said, her little face serious. My real mama is in heaven. But Sadie takes care of me like a mama. She reads me stories and makes me breakfast and holds me when I have bad dreams. That's what mamas do, right? Sadie couldn't speak. Her throat had closed completely. If Abby can almost die and call out for Sadie, then I can call her mama too. Patience crossed her arms. It's only fair. Patience, sweetheart, maybe we should... It's okay with me. Margaret's voice cut through. Everyone stared at her. What? It is. If Patience wants to call her mama, she should be allowed to. We can't keep pretending Sadie isn't family when she obviously is. Margaret. Eli's voice was strangled. I'm serious. She saved Abby's life. She held Eleanor through her nightmares. She taught Charlotte how to be a kid again. Margaret met Sadie's eyes. She earned it. Charlotte nodded slowly. I agree. The twins looked at each other, that silent communication passing between them. Then Josephine said, Me too. Me too, Rosemary echoed. Eleanor was crying but smiling through her tears. Me too. Abigail, who still barely spoke, simply got up from her chair, walked around the table, and climbed into Sadie's lap. Mama, she said softly. The first word she'd voluntarily spoken to Sadie since the fever. Sadie broke. The tears came flooding out, weeks of tension and fear and desperate hope finally releasing. She held Abigail close and cried while 7 girls watched, and for the first time, not one of them looked away. Well, Martha said from the doorway, her voice suspiciously thick. I suppose I'd better set another place at the family table. The weeks that followed were the happiest Sadie had ever known. She taught the twins to bake bread, laughing as they got flour everywhere. She helped Eleanor press wildflowers for a scrapbook. She listened to Charlotte's dreams of someday going to a real school and promised to help make it happen. She held Patience through nightmares and celebrated when Abigail finally started talking again. She read stories with all the voices just like she'd promised. She learned the rhythms of ranch life, the work and the rest, the challenges and the rewards. And every night, after the children were in bed, she sat with Eli on the porch and watched the stars, their hands intertwined, their hearts finally at peace. I could stay here forever, she said one night. That's the plan. No, I mean... She turned to face him. I thought I'd miss Kansas, miss my father's grave, miss the life I left behind. But I don't. This is home now. This is where I belong." Eli smiled. "Took you long enough to figure that out." "Oh, hush." He kissed her, and she let herself sink into it, into him, into this life she'd never expected and now couldn't imagine living without. The letter arrived on the Tuesday. Sadie was in the garden with Margaret teaching her how to prune tomato plants when Martha came running. "Mrs. Blackwood, there's a rider. From Denver." Something in her voice made Sadie's blood run cold. She found the rider in the yard, a young man barely out of his teens, sweating and dusty from hard travel. He thrust an envelope at her. "For Mr. Blackwood, from Silas Blackwood, said it was urgent." Sadie took the letter. Her hands were steady, but her heart was pounding. Eli emerged from the barn, saw her face, and crossed the yard in 3 strides. "What is it?" Sadie handed him the envelope, watched his expression change as he read. "Eli, what does it say?" He looked up, and the peace they'd built shattered. "My brother's coming. He'll be here in 3 days. He's bringing lawyers." Eli's jaw tightened. "He's contesting our father's will, claiming I'm unfit to run the ranch." "On what grounds?" "On the grounds that I've been mentally unstable since Mercy died, that I married a stranger out of desperation, that I'm not capable of managing the estate or caring for my children." Sadie felt the blood drain from her face. "Can he do that?" "He can try." Eli crumpled the letter in his fist. "He's been waiting for this. Waiting for me to show weakness. And marrying you, bringing a stranger into the family, that's exactly the ammunition he needed. So what do we do?" Eli looked at her, and for the first time since she'd known him, she saw fear in his eyes. "We fight." The next 3 days were chaos. Eli spent hours in his study poring over financial records, legal documents, anything that might help prove his competence. Sadie worked beside him, organizing papers, taking notes, preparing for a battle neither of them had seen coming. Martha kept the children busy, but they knew something was wrong. The tension in the house was impossible to miss. On the second night, Margaret cornered Sadie in the kitchen. "Uncle Silas is trying to take the ranch, isn't he?" Sadie hesitated. "How did you know?" "I'm not stupid. I've heard Papa talking. I've seen the letters." Margaret's face was hard determined. "What can I do to help?" "Margaret, this is grown-up business. You shouldn't. This is my home, my family, my sisters." The 14-year-old stepped closer. "I spent 2 years pushing everyone away because I was scared of losing them. I'm done being scared. Tell me how to help." Sadie looked at this girl who had transformed so completely, who had gone from enemy to ally to something like a daughter. "Okay," she said. "Here's what I need you to do." Silas Blackwood arrived on a Thursday morning with 3 lawyers, 2 investors from Denver, and enough arrogance to fill the entire valley. Sadie watched from the porch as his party approached. Fine horses, expensive clothes, the kind of polish that came from never having done an honest day's work. Silas himself was younger than Eli, softer with the same dark hair, but none of the strength in his features. When he dismounted, he looked at the house like he already owned it. "Brother," he didn't smile. "It's been too long." "Not long enough." Eli stood at the base of the steps, his back straight, his face like stone. "State your business and get out." "So hostile. And after I've come all this way." Silas's eyes slid to Sadie. "This must be the famous bride, the one you bought like a horse at auction." "Watch your mouth, Silas. Or what, you'll hit me." "Go ahead. Give me another reason to declare you unfit." Silas gestured to his lawyers. "We're here to conduct a formal review of the estate. The territorial authorities have concerns about your mental state and your ability to manage Father's legacy. Father left everything to me. The will was clear. The will was made before your wife died, before you spent 2 years hiding in the mountains, neglecting your duties, letting the operation fall apart." Silas smiled. "A lot can change in 2 years." Sadie stepped forward. "Mr. Blackwood, I don't believe we've been formally introduced. Silas turned to her, his smile sharpening. Ah, yes, the mysterious Mrs. Blackwood, the woman who came from nowhere and somehow convinced my brother to marry her within a week of meeting. Tell me, how much did he pay for you? $400. Sadie's voice was calm level. Enough to bury my father and escape a man who wanted to own me. Not unlike yourself, I imagine. Silas's smile froze. I know why you're here, Sadie continued. You've been waiting for your brother to show weakness. Waiting for an opportunity to take what you couldn't earn. You think because I'm a stranger, because our marriage was unconventional, that you can use me to destroy this family. I think I'm not finished. Sadie descended the steps, stopping directly in front of Silas. You want to conduct a review, fine. Review whatever you want. But you should know something before you waste everyone's time. And what's that? I've spent the last 3 days preparing documentation of every transaction, every decision, every aspect of this ranch's operation since your brother took over. I have profit reports, cattle counts, worker testimonials, and financial records going back 5 years. She smiled. I also have letters from 6 territorial officials praising your brother's management of this valley. Would you like to see them? Silas's face reddened. Furthermore, Sadie continued, I have signed statements from Dr. Harrison in Denver confirming that your brother is of sound mind and that our marriage was conducted legally and properly. She pulled a folder from behind her back. Would you like copies, or shall I provide them directly to your lawyers? The lawyers exchanged uncomfortable glances. This is ridiculous, Silas sputtered. You can't just... I can, and I did. Sadie turned to the lawyers. Gentlemen, you're welcome to examine every document I've compiled. You'll find that this ranch is more profitable now than it was under the previous generation's management. You'll find that Eli Blackwood is a respected member of the territorial community, and you'll find that your client's claims have no basis in fact. The lead lawyer stepped forward, accepting the folder. He flipped through it briefly, his eyebrows rising higher with each page. Mr. Blackwood, he said to Silas, we may need to discuss this privately. There's nothing to discuss. She's lying. She has to be. The profit margins alone are remarkable. The lawyer looked at Eli with new respect. The operation has nearly doubled its output since you took over. That's impressive. Thank you, Eli said quietly. I had good teachers and good help. He looked at Sadie, and the pride in his eyes made her heart swell. The lawyers spent 3 hours reviewing documents. Silas grew increasingly agitated as they worked, pacing the parlor, snapping at anyone who came near. When the lead lawyer finally emerged from the study, his face told the story before he spoke a word. Mr. Blackwood, he said to Silas, I'm afraid we cannot proceed with the competency challenge. The evidence clearly demonstrates that your brother is managing the estate effectively. There are no grounds for intervention. That's impossible. I paid you to... You paid us to review the situation and advise accordingly. Our advice is to withdraw the claim before you embarrass yourself further. Silas's face turned purple. This isn't over. He snarled at Eli. You think you've won. You haven't won anything. I'll find another way. You'll what? Silas. Eli stepped forward. Contest another. We'll hire more lawyers. Spread more lies about our family. He shook his head. I'm done being afraid of you. Done letting your jealousy dictate my life. Father left me this valley because he trusted me to protect it, to build something worth keeping. Father left you this valley because he was a fool. Father left me this valley because he saw something in me that you never could. Eli's voice softened. He loved you too, Silas. He just couldn't trust you. And today you proved him right. Silas stared at his brother. Something flickered in his eyes. Pain, maybe. The old wound of a younger son who'd never felt good enough. Then his face hardened again. This isn't over, he repeated. But his voice had lost its edge. He turned and walked out, his lawyers trailing behind him. Sadie watched until they disappeared over the ridge. Then she let out a breath she felt like she'd been holding for days. "We did it," she said. Eli pulled her into his arms. "You did it. I just stood there while you dismantled my brother's entire case. You stood there and supported me. That's not nothing." "Sadie." He pulled back, looking into her eyes. "I don't know what I did to deserve you, but I'm grateful every single day." "You showed up," she said simply. "When I had nothing, when I was about to lose everything, you showed up and offered me a chance. That's what you did." He kissed her right there in the yard, where anyone could see. Neither of them cared. That night, the family gathered in the parlor for the first time in years. Not for dinner, not for necessity, just to be together. Patience sat on Sadie's lap, half asleep. The twins were curled up on the floor, their fight over the ribbon long forgotten. Eleanor was showing Charlotte her pressed flower collection. Abigail had claimed Eli's lap, her thumb in her mouth, her eyes drooping. And Margaret sat beside Sadie, close enough that their shoulders touched. "Sadie," she said quietly. "Yeah." "I'm glad you came. I'm glad you didn't give up on us." Sadie squeezed her hand. "Me too. And I'm sorry. For everything. For the salt and the spider and all of it. I know. You've apologized 100 times. I'll apologize 100 more." Margaret paused. "You really saved us, you know. Not just from Uncle Silas. From ourselves. We were so lost after Mama died, so broken. And you put us back together. You put yourselves back together. I just showed you it was possible." Margaret leaned her head on Sadie's shoulder. "Can I call you Mama too?" she whispered. "Not all the time. Just sometimes. When I need to." Sadie's eyes filled with tears. "Yeah, sweetheart. You can call me Mama." Eli caught her eye across the room. He was smiling, really smiling for maybe the first time since she'd known him. "I love you," he mouthed. "I love you too," she mouthed back. Outside, the summer stars wheeled overhead, and the valley held them safe. They were a family. Finally, truly a family. Autumn arrived in the valley like a whispered promise. Sadie woke to the sound of laughter drifting through the window, high and pure and achingly beautiful. She lay still for a moment, listening, letting the sound wash over her. 4 months. 4 months since she'd ridden into this hidden world with nothing but a desperate bargain and a dying father's blessing. 4 months since she'd become Sadie Blackwood, wife to a stranger mother to 7 girls who didn't want her. Now the laughter of those same girls was the first thing she heard each morning. Eli stirred beside her. They'd been sharing a room for 3 weeks now, since the night he'd asked, and she'd said yes. The master bedroom finally opened, finally alive again. "What time is it?" he mumbled. "Early. The girls are already up." "They're always up." But he was smiling, that lazy morning smile she'd come to love. "Come back to bed." "Can't. Martha's expecting me in the kitchen." "Martha can wait 5 minutes." "Martha waits for no one." Eli laughed and pulled her close for a kiss. "Fine. But I'm holding you to those 5 minutes tonight." "Deal." She dressed quickly and made her way downstairs. The house felt different now, lighter. The curtains were open, letting in streams of golden morning light. Flowers sat on every table just like Mercy had once kept them. Music drifted from the parlor where Charlotte was practicing piano. It felt like a home again. She found the younger children in the yard. Patience was chasing chickens while the twins tried to catch grasshoppers. Eleanor sat under a tree sketching in her notebook. Abigail was collecting leaves, examining each one with intense concentration. And Margaret stood watching over them all, a small smile on her face. "Morning, Mama," she said as Sadie approached. The word still made Sadie's heart skip. 4 months, and it still felt like a miracle. "Morning, sweetheart. Everyone behaving?" "Mostly. Josephine put a frog in Rosemary's boot, but they worked it out." "Worked it out how?" "Rosemary put 2 frogs in Josephine's bed. They called it even." Sadie laughed. "That's one way to handle it." "That's the twin way." Margaret glanced at her. "You seem happy this morning." "I am happy. Aren't you?" Margaret considered the question seriously. She did that now, actually thought about her feelings instead of burying them. "Yeah," she said finally. "I think I am." Sadie squeezed her shoulder. "Good. That's good." Martha's voice carried from the kitchen window. "Mrs. Blackwood, these biscuits won't make themselves coming." Sadie started toward the house, then paused. "Margaret." "Yeah." "I'm proud of you. You know that, right?" Margaret's face softened. "I know. I'm proud of you, too." The morning passed in comfortable routine. Biscuits and bacon. Lessons for the younger children. Charlotte practicing her scales while Eleanor illustrated the wildflower guide they were making together. The twins arguing about whose turn it was to collect eggs. Patience helping Martha with laundry, which mostly meant tangling herself in sheets. Normal. Ordinary. Beautiful. Sadie was hanging linens on the line when the rider appeared. She recognized him immediately, the same young man who'd brought Silas's letter 3 weeks ago. Her stomach dropped. "Mrs. Blackwood." He was breathless, his horse lathered with sweat. "Message from Denver. Urgent." She took the envelope with steady hands. "Thank you. There's water for your horse in the barn." The rider nodded and led his mount away. Sadie stared at the envelope. Her name was written in elegant script she didn't recognize. She opened it. The words blurred, then sharpened, then blurred again. She read it 3 times before the meaning sank in. "Eli." Her voice came out strangled. "Eli!" He came running from the barn, fear on his face. What's wrong?" Sadie handed him the letter. He read it again, looked at her with wide eyes. "Is this real?" "I don't know. It looks official. But this says, I know what it says." Eli looked at the letter again as if the words might change. They didn't. "Sadie, this says Cornelius Driscoll is dead." She nodded, unable to speak. "It says he was shot by the husband of a woman he'd been pursuing, that his estate is being liquidated, that your father's cabin, all the property Driscoll held mortgages on, is being returned to the original owners." "I know." "It says there's money, compensation for fraudulent lending practices, that a check is being held for you in Denver." "I know." Eli set down the letter. "Sadie, you're free, completely free. Driscoll can never come after you again." The words hit her like a physical blow. Free. She'd been running from Cornelius Driscoll for so long that she'd forgotten what it felt like to not be running. Even here, even safe in the valley, some part of her had always been looking over her shoulder, waiting for him to appear, waiting for the other shoe to drop. And now he was gone. "Sadie." Eli touched her face. "Are you okay?" She burst into tears. The children found her crying in Eli's arms and immediately panicked. Mama, what's wrong?" "Is she hurt? Did something bad happen? Is Uncle Silas back?" "Everyone calm down." Eli's voice cut through their fear. "Nothing bad happened. Something good happened. Sadie just needs a minute." "But she's crying." Patience said, her lip trembling. "People cry when they're sad." Sadie wiped her eyes and knelt down. "Sometimes people cry when they're happy, too, sweetheart. When something wonderful happens that they didn't expect." "What wonderful thing happened?" Sadie looked at her daughters, all 7 of them gathered around her with worried faces. These girls who had become her world, who had taught her what family really meant. "A man who wanted to hurt me," she said carefully. "A man I was scared of for a long time. He's gone now. He can never hurt anyone again." "Did Papa shoot him?" Josephine asked eagerly. "Josephine," Charlotte swatted her sister. "You can't just ask that." "I didn't shoot anyone," Eli said dryly. "Someone else took care of it." "Oh." Josephine looked disappointed. Sadie laughed through her tears. "The point is, I'm safe. Really safe. For the first time in years, I don't have to be afraid anymore." Margaret stepped forward. You were afraid before. Sometimes. When I thought about what might happen if things didn't work out here, where I'd go, what I'd do. Sadie met her oldest daughter's eyes. But I'm not afraid anymore. I'm home. And nothing's going to change that. Margaret hugged her. Then Charlotte. Then the twins piling on together. Then Eleanor and Abigail, and finally Patience, who climbed up and wrapped herself around Sadie's neck. They stood there in a tangled knot of arms and love, and Sadie cried harder than she ever had in her life. But these were good tears. The best kind. That night, Eli took her to the ridge overlooking the valley. The sun was setting, painting everything gold and orange and red. Below them, the ranch spread out like a promise. Cattle dotting the pastures. The river catching the last light. The house where 7 girls were probably driving Martha crazy. Home. I want to do this properly, Eli said. Sadie turned to find him on one knee, a small box in his hand. Eli, what? Let me finish. He took a breath. 4 months ago, I rode into Kansas looking for a solution to a problem. I was desperate, broken. I'd given up on ever being happy again. I just wanted someone to help me keep my family together. He opened the box. Inside was a ring. Simple gold band worn smooth with age. This was my mother's. My father gave it to her the day they got married. She wore it until the day she died. His voice cracked. She told me once that a ring is just a circle of metal. What matters is the promise it represents. The promise to show up every day and choose each other even when it's hard. Sadie's hand flew to her mouth. We're already married, Eli continued. But that was a contract, a bargain between 2 desperate people. This is different. He looked up at her, his eyes bright with tears. This is me asking you to be my wife. Not because I need you, because I love you. Because I can't imagine facing another day without you beside me. Eli. Sadie Caroline Blackwood, will you marry me again for real this time? She was crying. Again. Still. She'd cried more in the last 4 months than in the 24 years before. Yes, she whispered. Yes. 1,000 times yes. Eli slipped the ring onto her finger. It fit perfectly, like it had been waiting for her. He stood and pulled her into his arms, kissing her as the sun sank below the mountains. I love you, he murmured against her lips. I love you too. Thank you, for coming here, for staying, for saving us. You saved me too, she said. You just don't know it yet. He smiled. Then we saved each other. We saved each other. They stood there holding each other, watching the first stars appear over the valley that had become their home. The wedding was Margaret's idea. You should do it properly, she said at breakfast the next morning. A real ceremony, with a dress and flowers and all of us there, not like the first time in some dusty boarding house with strangers watching. Margaret! She's right, Charlotte said. You deserve a real wedding, Mama. You both do. Can I throw flowers? Patience bounced in her seat. I want to throw flowers. Can we wear matching dresses? The twins asked together. Can I draw the invitations? Eleanor added. Sadie looked at Eli. He was grinning. Seems like the vote's in, he said. Guess we're having a wedding. No. They set the date for the following Sunday. The next 6 days were chaos. Martha took charge of the food, commanding the kitchen, like a general on a battlefield. Charlotte threw herself into decorating, recruiting her sisters as reluctant helpers. The twins argued constantly about flower arrangements, while Eleanor painted elaborate invitation cards for every worker on the ranch. Margaret appointed herself Sadie's personal assistant, handling every detail with fierce determination. You shouldn't have to worry about anything, she said when Sadie tried to help. This is your day. Just let us take care of you for once. I don't know how to do that. Then learn. Margaret smiled. Consider it practice for letting people love you. The dress was the hardest part. Sadie had nothing suitable, and there was no time to send to Denver. She was resigned to wearing her best Sunday dress when Martha appeared in her doorway. I have something for you. She held out a bundle wrapped in tissue paper. Sadie unwrapped it carefully. Her breath caught. A wedding dress. White lace and silk yellowed slightly with age, but still beautiful. Still perfect. It was Mercy's, Martha said quietly. She wore it the day she married Mr. Blackwood. She asked me to keep it. Said someday one of her girls might want it. She paused. I think she'd want you to have it. Sadie's hands trembled. Martha, I can't. You can. The older woman's eyes were wet. You brought this family back to life. You gave those girls their father back. You gave all of us hope. She pressed the dress into Sadie's hands. Wear it, please. For her. For all of us. Sadie held the dress to her chest and cried. Sunday dawned clear and bright. Sadie stood in her room, Mercy's dress fitting like it had been made for her, and looked at herself in the mirror. She barely recognized the woman looking back. 4 months ago, she'd been a desperate girl in a dusty cabin burying her father and facing a future that offered nothing but darkness. Now she was a wife, a mother, a woman, with a family who loved her and a home she'd helped rebuild. A knock at the door. Mama, Margaret's voice. Can we come in? Come in. The door opened and 7 girls filed in, each one dressed in their finest, each one glowing with excitement. Patience gasped. Mama, you look like a princess. You look beautiful, Charlotte said softly. You really do, Margaret agreed. Mama would have loved seeing you in her dress. Eleanor was crying already. The twins were actually holding hands without fighting. Abigail crept forward and touched the lace with reverent fingers. Pretty, she whispered. Sadie knelt down, gathering all 7 of them close. I need you girls to know something, she said, before we go down there, before everything changes. What? Margaret asked. I didn't come here looking for love. I came here looking for survival. But somewhere along the way, I found both. She looked at each of them in turn. You are my daughters, all of you. Not because I gave birth to you, but because I chose you, because you chose me. That bond is stronger than blood. We know, Mama, Charlotte said. Do you really know how much you mean to me? How much you've changed my life? We know because you show us, Margaret said. Every day, in everything you do. You don't have to say it. We can see it. Sadie hugged them all tighter, breathing in the scent of them, memorizing this moment. I love you, she whispered. Every single one of you. We love you too, Mama. They stood there for a long moment, mother and daughters bound by choice and love and the unbreakable ties of family. Then Patience squirmed. Can we go now? I really want to throw flowers. Everyone laughed. The ceremony was held in the meadow behind the house. All 20 ranch workers had gathered along with Martha and a circuit preacher who'd made the journey from Denver. Wildflowers bloomed everywhere. The mountains rose in the distance, standing witness. Eli waited at the end of the aisle, and when he saw Sadie walking toward him, escorted by all 7 of his daughters, he started to cry. She'd never seen anything more beautiful. The preacher spoke words about love and commitment and the sacred bond of marriage. Sadie barely heard them. She was lost in Eli's eyes, in the promise she saw there in the future stretching out before them. Do you, Elijah Josiah Blackwood, take this woman to be your wife? I do. And do you, Sadie Caroline Whitfield, take this man to be your husband? Sadie smiled. I do. Then by the power vested in me, I pronounce you man and wife. The preacher smiled. You may kiss your bride. Eli pulled her close and kissed her, really kissed her, while their daughters cheered and the workers applauded and Martha dabbed at her eyes with a handkerchief. When they finally parted, Sadie was laughing and crying at the same time. I love you, Mrs. Blackwood, Eli said. I love you too, Mr. Blackwood. Patience tugged at Sadie's dress. Can I throw flowers now? Yes, baby, you can throw flowers now. The little girl grabbed her basket and began hurling petals with abandon, spinning in circles, laughing with pure joy. Sadie watched her and felt her heart overflow. This was what her father had wanted for her. This was what he'd seen when he told her to be brave, to find something worth fighting for. She'd found it. The celebration lasted until well past dark. There was food and music and dancing. The twins performed a song they'd written themselves off-key but enthusiastic. Charlotte played piano while Eleanor displayed her artwork. Margaret gave a speech that made everyone cry. Through it all, Sadie held Eli's hand and watched her family celebrate. Her family. The word still felt like a miracle. "Happy?" Eli asked, pulling her close for another dance. "More than I ever thought possible. Any regrets?" "Just one." He tensed. "What?" "That my father isn't here to see this." Sadie's voice caught. "He would have loved you. He would have loved all of them." Eli pulled her closer. "I think he knows. Wherever he is, I think he's watching." "You really believe that?" "I have to. Otherwise, what's the point?" He kissed her forehead. "He's here, Sadie, in the wind and the stars and the laughter of those girls. He's here because you carry him with you." Sadie buried her face in his chest. "Thank you," she whispered. "For what?" "For everything. For finding me. For seeing something in me worth keeping. For giving me a chance." "You gave yourself a chance. I just held the door open." Later that night, after the guests had gone and the children were in bed, Sadie slipped away to a quiet spot on the ridge. The valley spread below her, peaceful in the moonlight. Her valley now. Her home. She pulled out the letter she'd been carrying in her pocket, the one she'd written weeks ago and never sent. "Dear Papa." She read aloud, her voice soft in the darkness. "I don't know if you can hear me. I don't know if letters reach heaven, or if prayers really work, or if any of this matters at all, but I had to try. You asked me to do two things before you died. You asked me to survive, and you asked me to help 3 little girls remember how to laugh. Papa, there are 7 of them, not 3. 7 motherless daughters who needed someone to love them. I didn't know that when I said yes, but I'm so glad I did. They laugh now, Papa, every single day. Patience laughs when she chases butterflies. The twins laugh when they're fighting and making up. Eleanor laughs when she reads happy endings. Charlotte laughs when she thinks no one's watching. Abigail laughs at the silliest things, sounds and faces and shadows on the wall. And Margaret, the oldest, the one who was so angry for so long, she laughs too. Finally, freely, like she's remembering how. I did what you asked. I survived. I found something worth fighting for. And I kept my promise. I miss you every day. I'll miss you for the rest of my life. But I'm not sad anymore, Papa. I'm grateful. Grateful for the time we had. Grateful for the lessons you taught me. Grateful for the courage you gave me to walk into the unknown and come out the other side. I'm happy now. Really, truly happy. I hope that's enough. I hope that's what you wanted for me. I love you, forever and always. Your daughter, Sadie." She folded the letter and let the wind take it, watched it flutter away into the darkness, carrying her words to wherever words go when we release them. "Goodbye, Papa," she whispered. "Thank you for everything." Then she turned and walked back to her home, where her husband and 7 daughters were waiting. 1 year later, Sadie stood in the same spot, watching the same valley, holding something new in her arms. A baby. A son. Born 3 weeks ago with his father's dark hair and his mother's stubborn chin. "Mama!" Patience came running up the hill, the twins close behind. "Is he awake? Can we hold him?" "He's sleeping, but you can look." The girls crowded around, cooing at their baby brother. "He's so small," Josephine whispered. "He's supposed to be small," Rosemary replied. "He's a baby." "I know that. I'm just saying." Margaret appeared next, with Charlotte and Eleanor and Abigail trailing behind. "Papa's looking for you. Margaret said. "He says the whole family needs to be in the photograph." "Photograph?" "He hired a man from Denver, wants a picture of all of us together." Margaret smiled. "All 10 of us." Sadie looked at her family. 8 children now, 9 counting the baby. Her husband waiting by the house, waving impatiently. "Coming," she called. She walked down the hill, surrounded by her children, carrying her son, heading toward the man she loved. The photographer arranged them on the porch. Eli in the center, Sadie beside him with the baby. Margaret and Charlotte on one side, the twins on the other. Eleanor and Abigail in front. Patience on her father's lap. "Everyone smile," the photographer said. They smiled. The camera flashed, and in that frozen moment, preserved forever on glass and silver, was everything Sadie had ever wanted. A family. A home. A love that would last a lifetime. Years later, when people asked Sadie how she ended up in Hidden Creek Valley, she always told the same story. "I sold myself to a stranger for $400, she'd say. "Best investment I ever made." She'd laugh at their shocked faces, then grow serious. "I came here looking for survival. I found something better. I found a home, a family, a love I didn't know I was capable of feeling. I found 7 girls who needed a mother, and a man who needed a partner, and a valley that needed life brought back into it." "And the stranger you married?" they'd ask. Sadie would smile, that soft smile she reserved for memories worth keeping. "He's not a stranger anymore. He's my husband, my best friend, the father of my children. He's everything I never knew I was looking for." Do you ever regret it? Leaving everything behind. Starting over. Not for a single second. Because here's what I've learned sometimes. The biggest risks lead to the biggest rewards. Sometimes the scariest choices are the right ones. And sometimes, if you're very lucky, you find exactly where you belong. She'd look out over the valley, then watching her children play, watching her husband work, watching the life they'd built together. And she'd know with absolute certainty that she was exactly where she was meant to be. Sadie Blackwood had come to Hidden Creek Valley as a desperate stranger with nothing to lose. She stayed because she found everything worth keeping.